What are some workouts that speed up your metabolism? That is a question from Zachariah that I'll be answering in this episode of Ask Yuri.
Ask Yuri. You've got a health and fitness question? I've got an answer.
All right, so what are the workouts that speed up your metabolism to burn fats? That's an interesting question because it's kind of an interesting thing because here's the thing, metabolism is very misunderstood. First of all, what's the difference between metabolism and metabolic rate? What's the difference between metabolic rate and basal metabolic rate? What's the difference between basal metabolic rate and resting metabolic rate? These are all questions that we don't really have, or most people don't have a very clear understanding of. Thankfully, we actually have a new report that is really getting to the core of metabolism that you can get access to at the link below this video, which basically uncovers all the myths about metabolism and gives you the straightforward knowledge that you need to know about metabolism, because there's a lot of misinformation about metabolism out there, and one of them is this notion of workouts. Okay, so let me break down metabolism just very quickly for a second. Metabolism is essentially a combination of anabolism and catabolism. All that means is that it's a combination of the breakdown and build-up process of stuff in your body. So, how your body burns calories is really a measure of metabolism or metabolic rate. It's kind of how many calories you expend on a daily basis. So, if you work out intensely, does that actually boost your metabolism? Well, it does, but it's quite insignificant, really. I mean, there's a lot of research that shows that high-intensity interval training, full-body strength training is really awesome for boosting your metabolism after a workout, which is known as your excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, or EPOC. And it's powerful. I mean, it can last up to 36 hours in a lot of cases. But even then, it's still very minimal in comparison to the biggest components of your metabolic rate, which is your resting metabolism, or your resting metabolic rate. Your resting metabolic rate is literally how many calories you burn if you're just to lay down all day, okay? That's literally the number of calories your body needs to survive. That's pretty much what it is. 70% of the calories you burn on a daily basis are your basal metabolic rate, or your resting metabolic rate. If you exercise, you can look at adding your activity level. You can add anywhere from about 10 to 20 calories in terms of expenditure on top of that 70%. The other 10% is a thermic effect of food. So, which means that by eating food, you burn calories to digest it, okay? Now, with exercise, it really, again, it's not one of these things where you can go out and do an amazing workout and have, your metabolism boosted forever and you're gonna burn calories as a result. What's interesting is metabolism, the very easy way to understand this is through a physics equation called work, or basically the physics equation of work, which is force times displacement. So, work is a measure of how many calories you burn, right? So, force is how much weight we're moving, and the distance or displacement is what we're moving that weight over, the distance, right? The greater the distance you move a weight over, the more work you do, i.e. the more calories you burn. So what's interesting here is that if I want you to think about this, if I weigh 165 pounds, and somebody else weighs 200 pounds, and we are both going up the same set of stairs, who is doing more work? I want you to think about that for a second. Okay, I'll come back to that in a moment. So, when it comes to your workouts, you want to think about this work times, or work equals force times displacement, because really you can only burn a certain number of calories during a workout, and then it's going to be a minimal effect on your metabolism there afterwards. It's not like you work out and your metabolism is boosted forever. It lasts for a short amount of time. So when you're working out, you want to think of how can I move, or how can I increase the force component of that equation? So how can I lift more weights? Okay? And how can I move that weight over a greater distance? That's why if I'm doing a shoulder press, okay, this distance is very limited. It might be, maybe half a meter above my shoulder. But if I took the weight from the floor and then brought it above my head, also known as like a clean and jerk or a snatch, which is like an Olympic movement, now that activity is very different. It's much more demanding. And if you try it, you'll be huffing and puffing. That is an indication that more muscle is involved, and that indicates that more fuel or calories are required to move the weight. So that is a very simple indication of how much work is being done. So to answer your question, it's I want you to think about during your workouts, how can you increase the weight that you're using? How can you increase the force that you're producing during that workout, and how can you move that force over a greater distance. If you're running, a greater distance would be covering more distance. Another way to increase the force if you are running is to run uphill. So you cover the same amount of distance, but now you're moving vertically, and that increases the force because now you have a vertical component against gravity. Okay, so this is really, once you understand this equation, this very simple equation is, if you understand this, guys, you will, it really just makes everything else with respect to working out when it comes to burning fat very simply, because work equals burning fat. The more work you do, the more calories you burn, the more fat you burn. Okay, it's really as simple as that. So let me get back to my earlier question with respect to doing the stairs. Okay, so if I'm 165 pounds, somebody else weighs 200 pounds, we both go up the stairs, same distance. Who burns more calories? If you said the 200 pounder, you're right. So now I want you to think about this. Have you ever heard of people talk about the fact that skinny people have a higher metabolism or a faster metabolism? Probably, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that that's false. And in the metabolism report, which you can grab below this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why that is false, and it's going to make a lot more sense when you understand that with respect to the question I just posed. The 200 pounder versus 165 pounder doing the same stairs. It's fascinating stuff, and this is the kind of misinformation that is being spread across all these New York Times best-selling books on metabolism and all this nonsense, and I think you deserve to know the truth. So if you want to know more about metabolism, you can grab the report at the link below. And Zachariah, thank you very much for the question. Hopefully that helped you out. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. In the meantime, get this fly off my head. If you have a question, join me over at Facebook and post your question on the wall. I'll do my very best to create a video just for you in the near future. So do that now, grab the report, and I'll see you in the next video.